Welcome to Vox Scream, a kill team podcast where we aim to help players of all skill levels supercharge their game and separate the signal from the noise. I'm Mark Meyer, joined by kill team heavyweights George Pratt and Joe Gallo. We're coming to you from the Triangle region in North Carolina. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to Vox Scream, everyone. We have another awesome episode lined up for y'all, but first want to welcome in co-hosts George and Joe. What's going on, guys?
What's up? It's Friday, not to date the podcast, but I'm tired because I worked all week.
I'm doing great, waiting to hear back on a job, but other than that, I start another job on Monday, so I'm feeling great.
That's good. After a while, fun employment becomes a little less fun.
I know, and it's like super open employment. I can work whenever I want, so that's a peace of mind I didn't know existed.
Let's talk about a little kill team. I don't think we have a lot to get into as far as a preamble, so I think we're going to run right into some league game recaps from this past week. Again, George said we're recording on Friday, but on Tuesday and thereabouts, we played our league games for this past week at Atomic Empire in Durham. The game type was Into the Dark, the mission was Capture, and the map was number 4, Bridge. And just real quick, is that the least liked ITD map? It's certainly my least liked ITD map.
No, it is the second. It is the second most disliked ITD map next to the
Corridor.
Yeah, the Elite Killer Corridor.
I don't remember that one. I gotta look it up.
Corridor is awful. Corridor is the one where it's 3 like hallways where the 2 on each side, the left and right side, are blocked off by a door wall. And the only way to get to the center room is to deploy your models in the center hallway, or deploy them, move them from the left and right side to a door that is like up by the wall in the midboard.
Which one did you say that one was again?
Oh, I'm sorry, channels.
Now, bear in mind that the Into the Dark maps, for the most part, are pretty solid. But I will say those 2 particular maps encourage people to have what do you call it? The non-aligned maps that you did, George, for the Triangle Open.
Oh, the LVO asymmetrical ITD maps?
That's encouraged the community to crowdsource different types of maps, since those 2 are particularly awful. And I like the idea of the community coming together to create different map types.
Yeah, I remember seeing those boards at the Triangle Open and thought that they looked like a lot of fun to play on, or certainly to try out at least.
Some of them were, others of them I'm not a fan of, but as that goes with anything.
Yeah, I like them all. Unfortunately, since I was running the tournament, I still haven't played on any of those asymmetric ITD maps, which makes me a sad, sad boy.
Yeah, you've kind of like screwed yourself out of playing anything locally from here until the end of time, unless Mark steps up, yeah?
Well, at least someone steps up.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly might be me, might be Mark, who knows?
Listen, I won't say no.
Anyways, Mark, are you going to start with yours?
I actually think I want to start with George because we talked a little bit on the last program about how George got absolutely demolished in his last league game. And I know he's itching to talk about it. So, George, do you want to tell us about the ass kicking?
Get your popcorn,
Yes.
kids. This is going to be a good one.
Let me divulge my shame. So I played against Nick Shepard, who won our last tournament on Nemesis Claw. He's a very good player. He's playing Vet Guard for the league, trying to get his Vet Guard Revenge tour going. I went into that relatively confident. It was my first ever Into the Dark game as Brood Bros. And I was like, it's like Vet Guard. They probably play pretty similarly. I took the Primus and the Lookout as my assets. I took the knife guy instead of the medic. I took the sniper, and plasma and grenade launcher. And the game basically went turn 1, nothing happened. Turn 2, I lose my veteran and Primus to a demo mine first thing. And that was pretty much it. My sniper didn't kill anything in shooting. Like, it was a tough game. It was a close game. And then his guardsmen refused to die. Like, when is a sniper hitting on 2s fire at everyone and only leave them on 1 wound consistently? against 5-up save, 7 wounds. How does that happen?
I mean, that sounds like Vetguard. They do just refuse to die. That's their whole thing.
It was brutal. The only time my sniper killed anyone was in melee.
Is the Primus or the sniper, is it 3 mortal wounds 3 hitting on 2s?
Yep, it is the Vetguard sniper, except it cannot go on engage. So it's a good sniper. But man, he kept rolling those 5s and 6s on saves. The plasma gun. So I learned a number of things in that game. One, I criminally underestimated the demo mine, even though I played Vetguard and know how powerful it is. I criminally overestimated how useful the Primus's initiative ability would be. And I also took just the wrong models on Into the Dark against Vetguard. I should have dropped the plasma gun. I should have taken the flamer. I should have either taken the Patriarch or Familiars, Interference, and Lookout. That's what I should have done. And if I had done those things, it would have been a very, very different game.
See, that's one of the things I like about Brood Brothers, like as opposed to like Vetguard. They have so many like interesting points of choice at the very beginning of the game, and as you surmised, it becomes very, very important to pick the right models. Like one of the big things people complain about in Kill Team this edition versus the old edition is lack of like list building and stuff like that. And I think teams like that, teams like Inquisition, kind of scratch that itch for a lot of people. I do find it interesting that that's where you found the fault in your stars, so to speak, of like what, like as opposed to like Nick, right? You maybe have 2 or 3 flex spots for Vet Guard. Other than that, you're picking pretty much the same models every time. So it's interesting at what point, if Gellerpox is another example of that, right? Gellerpox has very few decision points to make at the beginning, but it becomes a much different game for them when they're actually applying it to the tabletop versus George is sitting there racking his brain over what models to pick into specific matchups. And as we've talked about already, that like feeds into like mental load over the long terms of a tournament. And it'll be interesting, George, as you play Brood Brothers going into Nova, because we'll be doing like what 7 rounds over the course of 2 days or something like that. How that's going to play into your one, how well you do, and to like if you dedicating yourself to this team, finding out what those correct choices are will reward you or not.
Yeah, it's an interesting puzzle that I am quite enjoying, trying to figure out which options on my leader or assets, or even if I take no leader and take Griblies, because I've taken I played a game of loot to salvagers on open board where I took the Familiars, I took Lookout, and I took just a Trooper. No Primus, no Patriarch, no Magus, and I absolutely demolished that game. I won by like 9 points or something. It's just more bodies on loot is a good idea. Who knew?
I want to get a little bit more into that idea of choice. Specifically, you were talking about how you thought that you were going to run, or that you would have preferred to run one of those 2 other sort of Brood Coven loadouts, where you're either taking the Patriarch or you're taking a bunch of little throwaway dudes for this matchup against Vetguard. So could you talk a little bit more about sort of the thought process behind why you would pick one of those 2 against Vetguard?
Yeah, so I'm learning after playing 2 games on Into the Dark as Brood Brothers, I'm learning that the team you're playing into has a secondary effect on your choices on Into the Dark than the map you were playing specifically. So we played Bridge, which is the large open room in the center, and then it has another smaller room on the right side of your deployment zone. So whether you're red or blue, it's got a room right up against your deployment zone on your right. So that means that on your left, there's just a big empty space with your opponent's room up there. And so I committed the Primus and the Veteran over there, and I did not respect that he committed the demo to assaulting that room. Where I committed my demo man to assaulting his room, he just didn't feed anyone into the room, and so it didn't matter.
So was it a situation where like he had his demo like up against the door, and then you had
Oh
like you just
yeah.
gave him an extra APL to like move, plant, detonate on turn two?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just he set it up perfectly. He did everything textbook, and I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Another one of my big mistakes was I took the faction tac op to do mission actions, to prepare for ascension or whatever it's called. And I figure on capture, sure, it's probably fine to spend a mission action, but on Into the Dark, that means you have to open doors and commit more models. And that was a mistake that allowed him to pick up the Veteran and Primus instead of just one of them. If I was smarter and chose better tac ops, I wouldn't have had to commit that hard to those models.
That's certainly a tough choice on that particular map because you have to get 4 objectives prepared in order to get the first VP, right?
Yeah, it was a wrong choice. It was just a mistake. It was a bad
That's
call.
very similar to my game where like I felt really good about my choices as Gellerpox on that map, but obviously, taking tech infection is going to be like you're going to do it pretty much every time, but it's just going to be a little bit harder to score on that map because you've really just got to push up and get into probably one of the side rooms in order to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where I failed spectacularly, is I didn't commit hard enough on either flank or the center, and so I just lost everywhere. And Vetguard have more bodies than Brood Bros, even if we have the same number of activations. So he was able to leverage his ability to just take bullets and apparently survive them to just push up the board. So like I made a number of mistakes in that game, and I lost quite deservedly. That game, I got absolutely smashed. But in doing so, I learned so much about. So if I had taken the Patriarch, I would have committed the Patriarch to my left side. So he would be the one going up and staging to capture my opponent's room. And that's all I would need on that side, right? And so I would basically take everyone else and commit it to the center while leaving just one person on my right side for them to just get absolutely annihilated by the demo mine. Because that's where the demo mine's going to come from. It's just the best place to put it. And because the Patriarch has 2 activations, you can easily set it up to, dash him up with a scout dash, move with 1 APL, and then you just keep him on engage. It's a shut door, and if your opponent moves up there and opens the door, they're just going to get eaten by the Patriarch. Or if they move up, you activate with 3 APL, you open the door, you charge in, you eat something. So like he's so dangerous on Into the Dark, where he is not really that dangerous on. I mean, he's still very dangerous on open. He's just a lot less dangerous on open. And because I've only played open, I didn't have that thought process. I'm real low on the Patriarch on open currently.
I was just going to say I was just thinking through it like one of the big limiting things on the Patriarch, right, is that he can't move more than 9 inches in an activation. So like that recon dash is just so huge for him. And then if you're doing that on one of these maps like Bridge, that's like, the shorter distance to your opponent's deployment zone, you can actually like wreak a lot of havoc if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a huge threat range. And if they don't respect your threat range, then, if you get real aggressive with them, you could, pop open the door, go from engage to conceal, because he has an action that lets him flip his order. So open door, flip his order, just move on to the point. You're 4 APL. Did they commit 2 dudes to it? Great. Did they not commit 2 dudes to it? Great. Right?
That's just brutal. Like
Yeah, it's the Talons of the Emperor problem, right? They're much worse on open and they're much better on Into the Dark because they don't have to worry about getting shot so easily on turning point 1. You're able to set up the Patriarch in a position to wreak havoc and be relatively safe turning point 1.
Yeah. And I should have dropped the plasma gun for my flamer. Just because on an Into the Dark type map, where you're less likely to get a bunch of lookout tokens, even with lookout up, like the only thing it shot at, because Nick, again, good player, he didn't give me any shots that wasn't I move and shoot you first, or I move and charged and fought you and killed you. So he didn't give me any shots on anyone who was important to his plan. And then by the time I did get to fire the plasma gun, it was turn 3, and I rolled 2 1s and a 2. And it's just like, all right, well, I miss, and I'm on 1 wound. So that was great. But like, if I grabbed a flamer, I mean, it still would have been the worst roll I've ever seen for a flamer. But I had an extra dice, and, those are 2 hits still.
Yeah, I painted up a flamer for my boot bros mostly as like a test model, but also I just like flamers. And coming from someone who played Vet Guard, I think that there is a lot of flamer play out there, especially like if you're going into like Brood Bros versus Vet Guard or like a Brood Bro mirror match. I think that's going to be just like a really useful operative because there's a pretty good chance that they're just not going to roll enough 5s and 6s to live.
Yeah, statistically, I was proven wrong in this particular game, but statistically, yeah, and it gives you the opportunity to hit more dudes on Into the Dark, which you're more likely to hit more dudes on Into the Dark just because there's so many places they can be.
I mean, for me, I don't think it's really ever worth it to take a flamer unless you're Warp Coven. I mean, I think the whole thing with like the plasma, right? Because you're hitting on 4s, is that theoretically against a big target or against any target, you can fire and forget the plasma, and most times you're just gonna kill whatever you're shooting at. Versus the flamer is maybe you would need 4 hits to kill anything on 7 wounds and assume they make no saves. Though I guess the theory behind using plasma with this team is setting up crossfire tokens, but against Guardsmen that doesn't really work because they die to a stiff breeze. So I can understand why you would feel that way, but I do still think that the plasma is always the right choice. If you have the ability to take
So
one.
from coming from Vedguard, where you have a plasma that can reroll, that gets ceaseless. So you always go hot because you have ceaseless. It's still hitting on 4s though, and 4s is just too swingy. If your game is going really well as Brood Bros, whatever you're firing the plasma at probably has 1 or 2 crossfire tokens on it. So having 2 rerolls just in your pocket makes a 4-up plasma way scarier. But if you have to fire the thing at someone with no crossfire tokens, now you're just firing a 4-up gun that if you roll a 1, you hurt yourself. It's not that great. And on Into the Dark, a flamer getting lethal 5-up, being able to hurt a bunch of people that have just pushed up into your deployment, your territory, gives it a much broader appeal, especially against a horde team. If it was, a legionary or whatever, nah, not a chance. Leave the flame at home, take the plasma. But I don't necessarily want a flamer to kill a bunch of models at once, although it has absolutely just annihilated like commandos and stuff. I've got it in. So like it can wipe a good portion of a room if your opponent positions poorly, but it forces that positioning game where if they want to get big gains in a room, you can force them into a position where they're going to have to eat big damage in return.
Okay, I can understand that. I still think just firing a plasma is always just gonna be better. Because if I'm firing a gun, I'm doing it with the intention of killing a target because there's a reason I'm trying to kill that target.
But if there's
Because
if there's 4 vet guard in the room and there's 0 of you in the room, 1 plasma is not going to change the board state there.
I mean, it's what? It's Torrent 2
Torrent
or
2,
Torrent 1?
Yeah. It's respectable.
I mean, for me, I probably wouldn't take the flamer unless it was either an 8 wound or less model or a 5-up save. And really, like Into the Dark, going to see a lot of play there. Not as much on open board.
Yeah, you don't take it on open board. There's literally 0 reason to take it on open board, even against horde teams. Like, I took the flamer in my ITD game against salvagers, who are 8 wounds, 3-up save. And like, I took 2 full health salvagers down to 2 wounds and was really chuffed about that. I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, so I made a bunch of mistakes. In summary, I made a bunch of mistakes. It took me like 9 hours to like, what happened to that game? Because I just got absolutely demolished. So I had to get over the, do I suck at this game actually? Into the, okay, I don't suck. I just made mistakes. What are the mistakes I made?
So, side point before we get into Mark's game, that feeling, that is something, I don't know about y'all. There are some games for me where I have that thought quite often, and I think to all the new players out there, I want to say, if you get crushed in a game, do not go, I suck at this game immediately. Please do what George did instead and actually think about what happened. And I promise you're going to discover about 15 different things that you did wrong, and you will actually learn something. That is much more useful ways of actually getting better at this game if you care about that than blaming dice, than blaming a meta, than blaming whatever. Now, I have a giant ass caveat onto this. There are some teams right now that have very, very, very good matchups in other teams. I say this as an elite player. If you have 10 or more bodies, you're already playing with a leg down.
You mean a leg up? I think you're crossing your idioms.
Sorry, let me. You elite team. You not have 6. You have more than 10 bodies. You doing good against elites. There you go. That's what I'm saying. Is they're gonna out activate you, and that's just something you're gonna have to deal with and learn to live with. That's an edge case. But if you're playing a 10 body team, yes, sometimes you're gonna get out activated, and that does matter. But it matters less where skill comes into play in that instance versus when you're playing an elite team. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're new at this game, that tilting doesn't help anyone. It just makes you upset and want to quit a game that you actually enjoyed potentially at one point. And we don't want that. We like more people playing kill team. So just a PSA there.
Yeah, the two things I would add to that, Joe. One is like when you're a newer player, the other thing to remember is that it's a very, very steep learning curve for Kill Team. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of factions that have a lot of rules within themselves. So if you're losing games after like just getting started, it's not your fault. There's just a ton of stuff that you kind of have to learn along the way. Another thing is just the idea of I have bad games all the time. And when that happens to me, my mind frame is never I suck at this game. It's I had a bad game. And I think that that's probably the first step to sort of getting on the path of learning something from it as opposed to sort of wallowing in it.
I cannot tell you the amount of people I've seen in our league lose every single game in the league and then come back the next league and do 1,000 times better, win half their games, win more than half their games. There is a learning curve that is always going to be applied to this game, and if you put the time, you're going to get rewarded for that time. And if that's something that you care about, you're going to see yourself improve.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the fun part about it.
In my opinion, it's the best part of this game is knowing the functionality of your models and how that applies to the rules to have your opponent go, wow, I didn't see that, right? Or they catching your opponent off guard in that way because you put in the time, because you put in the effort.
Yeah, it's the thing that I understand the most about people who enjoy fighting games. There's so much depth in a fighting game you simply do not see unless you're part of that world. And it's the same thing with Kill Team. Like, you can watch a game of Kill Team, but unless you're part of the understanding of how the game works, a lot of it just goes over your head.
And also sometimes, yeah, you're going to get caught on a rule that seems stupid, or somebody's going to hide behind the edge of a curve on an Octarius terrain, and you're going to go, why can't I shoot them? And then your opponent's going to go, nana boo boo, my edge is right behind this edge, and you're just going to have to deal with that because that's how this game works.
Yeah, that's me.
That's it's definitely got me thinking now about like what is the neutral game of Kill Team, but that's probably another topic for another episode.
We should do that as a topic because I think about Kill Team like a fighting game.
We should.
But yeah, so that was pretty much my game. So Mark, you want to go over your game?
I do. And as we're kicking that off for my game, I want to ask you a question, George. So I played against Day, who's a fantastic player in our league. The matchup was my Gellerpox versus her Hunter Clade. And she was really excited because she said she had a really good strategy before the game, and she pulled you to the side to tell you what it was. And I wanted to ask her after the game, but we finished at like 11 p.m. I was pretty fried. So I wanted to hear from you. Did she tell you what the strategy was that she was approaching the game with?
Yeah. It was run away from you.
Yes, and she did that, and it did work very well.
Yeah.
So first thing I wanted to point out was I think she did a fantastic job with roster selection. She ran 5 Ruststalkers and 5 Vanguard, and it's just a really tough combination to go up against. Because Gellerpox, because rust stalkers are nasty, and if you get a little too close to a vanguard in the process, that rust stalker is probably going to ruin your day.
Yeah, it's one of the things that Day has, because she bounces ideas off me to try and get better at Hunter Clade. And like, I've played Hunter Clade for a little bit. I understand the team, but she finds things that I look at and go, oh man, that's really good. Like, she absolutely. I played a game against her as Kazarkin into her Hunter Clade, and I did a really good job of just shooting her Sicarians. And then she just moved up the Vanguard and was just like, all right, I'm just gonna charge you with Vanguard. I'm like, well, no, nothing's gonna happen. We're both 4 dice. I'm on 5s now because I'm injured. You're on 4s. We're both 2-3 damage. Like, what are we doing here? It was a great play.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty similar thing happened in my game, obviously, where the Vanguard were just going up against the rust emanations from the Nightmare Hulks. So it was just a lot of grossness and injury everywhere.
It's a nuclear Nurgle soup.
Yes, to put it politely. And it worked out well because her models are painted with like glow in the dark paint, and she's got like slime or like radioactive sludge on the base. So they're, radioactive just like my dudes.
They're gorgeous models.
They are fantastic. Zach, he came by the table and said that we had the best painted matchup of the week. And that, that got me going there a little bit.
Yeah, I believe it.
I ran what I felt like was a pretty standard setup. I will say that it was my first time going for a bigger skew towards sludge grubs on ITD. In the past, I've kind of just splashed into one and then gone for some more flying bugs. But I've heard that going for a lot of sludge grubs is really good on ITD, obviously with the lethal 5 and the mortals from Splash. Really good stuff. And I've had that like kind of damage spike where you're rolling like 2 crits and a hit, and all of a sudden someone just dies to a sludge grub who was sitting behind a door.
Good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
It's really cool. My dice were not rolling particularly well, so I didn't get a lot of value out of the sludge grub. But let's see, what are some other important things?
Did you get any value out of them exploding?
I dealt 2 mortals to 2 operatives at the end of the game who I wasn't going to be able to kill anyway.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, one of the nice things about the sludge grubs is that when they die, they explode and hurt people.
Mm-hmm. It is really nice. And your Hulks can do that too, as well as your other operatives if you want to spend command points on them, which is not a very popular way to spend command points, but I've actually killed some operatives by dealing like an extra mortal or 2 after fighting with a Hulk. And that's really nice. It's good to get people off the board.
Yeah. I've lost operatives to Orion's Gellerpox by killing a Hulk, and he was like, all right, now I blow him up and you die. I was like, ah, great. Thanks for souring that accomplishment.
I mentioned this during your recap. I did take Tech Infection, and it was, it's the best faction attack up they've got, in my opinion, and it's really easy to score, but that's a particularly tough map to score it on. My game plan going into it was, okay, I need to try and get one of these 2 sort of side rooms where I can, really sort of assert myself and get somebody onto the point and do the mission action, probably turning point 2 or 3, depending. So I deployed with my Lumberghast kind of in the middle room. I did the Flesh Screamer to that one room off to the right-hand side. You have to enter from your deployment zone. I did Vulgrar and the Bloat Spawn on the left-hand side in that kind of open area. And I managed to do what I think was like a pretty dynamic play, in the sense where I really was committing Vulgrar to that room on the left-hand side, but I held the Bloat Spawn back a little bit so that if I needed to, he could make a play in the center room, which ended up paying off. Pretty inactive turn 1 for both of us, but we both got 3 on primary. I got my first point on Tech Infection because on capture with 3 points right there, it's just pretty easy to do. Day got a point on recover item, and when she won initiative in the second turning point, like you said, George, she took that item and ran away, and it worked. She scored the second point pretty easily. One thing that I was really hoping to get like initiative in that point, because I had sort of seen this opportunity. I didn't use call the hum in the first turning point because I didn't see much of a need to, but if I could have gotten initiative, I could have just kind of scooted my lumberghast out from behind the heavy cover where he was hiding and then gotten like a really nice clean charge onto a couple operatives. But I ended up just getting one of the plasma gunners, or I don't know which of the two big nasty gunners I got, but I did effectively one-shot it with the lumberghast with my activation. And the rest of the game, or the rest of that turning point, ended up just being like, try to kill the Hulk. She sank a bunch of stuff into killing the Hulk, and she did. And the Hulk blew up. And at that point, there was just a Rust Stalker on a couple wounds, just kind of hanging out. And I ran the blood spawn up and finished the job there too. So another point on a good thing if you're a hunter clade playing against a Gellerpox is that I guess calculated eradication is the name of the faction tac op, the one where it's like kill more wounds than you. I've just got so many wounds to kill, and it seems like a really, really easy to score tac op against.
Yeah, there's so many wounds, and like Hulks can take 18 damage, and you can't do more than 7 to a Skitarii or more than 10 to a Sicarian. So yeah, it seems pretty legit into Gellerpox. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I killed Rust Stalker and a Vanguard operative, that gunner, in the second turning point, and it was still like 24 wounds to 7 or to 17, and kind of a hard hill to climb there. She actually had a 1 point lead coming out of that turning point. The things that I remember about the third turning point is that there was a couple unlucky moments for Day. One in particular, I did end up pushing into that left room with Volgrar and getting some backup over there. He scored Robin Ransack, scored me some points, and then Day was about to fire on him with her other gunner. She rolled the dice, and then she's like, "Oh, I forgot to say if I was going to roll hot or not. Do you mind if I just re-roll and go hot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally, that's fine." And she re-rolled 4 hits into a hit, a crit, and 2 ones.
Yeah, rough.
And yeah, that's really rough, and that might have swung the game in her favor if she hadn't done that. But ultimately, the thing I think is that sort of runaway strategy allowed me to be on 5 objectives at the end of turning point 3, and that was the sort of swing moment in the game, was just going 4-1.
Yeah.
Question on that particular move. Do you remember how much CP she had at that point?
Not very many. I think she actually, had to use her last CP to get that shot off. I think she used her last CP to switch her imperative to get the extra inch of movement to take that shot.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I was gonna say I'm shocked she didn't switch the imperative to get the balance reroll.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, I think that was still a valid way of doing that, just to try and get that shot in the hope that like four hits go through, going hot, you don't roll anything, and like you roll particularly poorly on your feel no pain.
mhm.
It's something I would do just as a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it was like a bad idea. And that seems like a pretty fair way to do it. That's what I've done in the past when I've been, trigger happy and haven't declared how I'm firing my weapons. Just do it over again, right? As long
Yeah.
as everybody agrees to that.
Yeah, real stand up of her.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was really it at that point. I took what, to me, apart from Tech Infection, felt like pretty standard Tech Ops route, Robin Ransack, and I ended up maxing all 3. It was 18-15, really, really tight competitive game. I think a couple things that from my play really stood out as mistakes and things I need to do better was target selection. There was multiple points where I was fighting a Rust Stalker when I shouldn't be, or doing fights that I didn't need to. I remember in the third turning point, I ended up pushing into that room on the right-hand side with my Flesh Screamer, and I charged into a Rust Stalker and Vanguard operative. I think it was her leader, actually, or Vanguard leader, and a Rust Stalker. And I fought the Rust Stalker, and I was going to fight twice. I fought the Rust Stalker first because he hadn't activated, and that's just sort of one of those mental heuristics, those shortcuts where I'm like, oh, I want to kill the operative who hasn't activated, cut things short. But that was a terrible idea because I was injured, and so I rolled 1 successful hit. Actually, I rolled 1 hit, and then with Blessings of Infection, I got a flip 1 to a hit. So I hit once, and then this Rust Stalker with Rending had 3 crits. and 2 hits. So it just dealt a shit ton of damage. I think it took me down to 4 or 5 wounds. And I was like, well, I'm not going to fight twice now. I kind of screwed myself there. So that was a huge mistake. And obviously, that's just something I had thought about that before the game. It's like, gotta kill the Vanguard operatives. But in the moment, it was the wrong choice because I was using sort of the wrong mental process to get to it. I was using one of those shortcuts and not one of those things that I had sort of thought about specifically in that matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest why Gellerpox is so strong on Into the Dark is because for a lot of teams, the best strategy into Gellerpox is run away from the big scary guys and try and kill the little guys. And on Into the Dark, there's just not the room to do that. If you want to get past the big hulks, there's no way to just go around a piece of terrain or, try and block them with terrain in some way. There's these doors that they can just stand next to and block your way. And so while I think it is a good strategy to run away from you, that strategy only kind of works for like 2 turns tops. And then you just sort of need to like turn on the aggression, and like, yeah, if you're gonna go hard into Rust Stalkers, you really pair them up with a Vanguard just so you get a Vanguard in within 2 inches of a Hulk, you charge that Rust Stalker in. Now the Hulk is injured, it's gonna get maybe 2 hits with blessings up, you parry one away, and then you just hit it hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I remember on the left-hand side where I pushed Volgar up, he ran into a Rust Stalker who effectively did nothing the whole game. It ran into that room, and then it kind of tucked up against the door, and then, that was that. On the left-hand side, nobody charged into that room on my side, on my right-hand side, until turning point 4. Like, it was just like a standoff where my Hulk was just staring at a Rust Stalker and just nobody wanted to do anything.
Yeah.
Another tactical error was in the final turning point. I did win initiative turning point 4, and I got my bloat spawn into a group of 2 Vanguard, and I fought once against, I think it was the Dictat, and at that point, I think I went into that fight with 5 wounds left because he was just kind of standing out in the open in that middle room at the end of the turning point. So charged up, killed the Dictat, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to fight twice, kill the leader. I was injured, so of course I didn't roll very well, and then the leader just killed me. And that was just a misplay. Obviously, I had a lead at that point from all the points I scored in turning point 3, and the right play would have been to leave the bloat spawn there to either like waste an activation from the leader to kill it, or potentially just try to fall back and hopefully that gets eaten up. But small mistake there. I like to think that if it wasn't a little bit later in the evening, I might have been a little bit sharper. Maybe that's, making an excuse, but I think that my brain power just like falls off super hard after 10 o'clock. And
it's bedtime for a lot of people.
It is. I'm old now, so I just wake up at the same time every day. And so it's just, I go to bed earlier and earlier.
Sundowning in your late 20s, classic.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm 30, bro. I'm 32.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know you were older than me.
I thought we had this conversation.
Did we? No, I'm.
It was on my birthday.
Jesus.
We played Kill Team on my birthday.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. So that's wild. Okay. Well, I'm gonna be 30 in less than a year.
We'll play Kill Team on your birthday too.
Yeah, get ready for all of the aches and pains. They just sort of show up.
So I guess to summarize, the things I learned from my game is really not try, like, obviously you want to have these mental shortcuts, but to try and bounce those as well as you can with the things that you need to do against either a certain opponent due to their playstyle or a certain team due to their strengths and weaknesses, as well as play Gellerpox on Into the Dark, I guess.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
It's a good pick. And one thing that I want to do differently is I've basically been deploying my groups the same way every time, where I'm kind of like splitting everybody up, like do like a mutant, to glitchlings and some bugs, and then to do the same kind of group and then deploy my big guys last. I like deploying the big guys last. It's great. But I think for something like Into the Dark, I'd like to start maybe deploying all my mutants in a group together. And that way I don't have them so spread out if I want to do like some sort of like carpet bombing tactic.
Yeah, and Into the Dark, I like deploying the 3 mutants, Volgrar, and the Sludge Grub last, just because they have frag grenades, the Flamer, and the Splash, so that you can use them to, if you're the defender, you can use them to project a bunch of area denial threat, or if you're the attacker, you can use them, that group, to be like, okay, where's the greatest concentration of opponents? Over there. What is my best way to push up and hit a bunch of them with one of these frag grenades or Volgrar, and then like make that work.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too, since a lot of the Into the Dark maps, especially, are kind of like split into thirds, and so you're probably going to go with like a Hulk in each room plus one more Hulk on a certain point.
Yeah, it's interesting playing Gellerpox on Into the Dark versus Open. You just have to think about very different things.
Well, speaking about thinking of different things, let's think about Joe's game. Joe, tell us a little bit about what went down for you this week.
All right, week 3, still on Nemenclaw. Went into good old Chris. Great player with his commandos. Same map as everyone else. Going into this one, I was feeling pretty all right. Nemesis Claw Into the Dark is going to be really strong in the same way that Legionnaire is. Obviously, you got to be a little more defensive with them since they're not as like physically tough as Legionnaires are. But as Legionnaire had the advantage against Commandos on Into the Dark, so does Nemesis Claw. The primary differences in strengths for Nemesis Claw, they have more reliable rerolls, and arguably their fighting is just better in certain ways. For example, the Screecher by itself is a nightmare for commandos to deal with, especially if you throw skin on him. That means he's turning all of his boys into hitting on 4s with no rerolls, which very often will lead to situations, especially if you took the mortal wounds on the first charge, where you're just 2-tapping orcs with 2 crits and there is no just scratch to be found, which is sort of what happened in my game. So this map is notoriously bad for elites. I've found success on it and I found failure on it, and I feel like I kind of took that experience and applied it in this game. I only put one Legionnaire on the far left, and he literally held that down the entire game. Or what? Sorry, one Nemesis Claw operative. See where my brain's at. The Heavy Bolter, which in hindsight might have not been the choice. I kind of regretted not having the Fearmonger personally, because it would have been able to poison the objective and make certain rolls against me easier to deal with. So, for example, he put the Daka Boy, the Bomb Squig, and the Knife Guy on that side with the one guy. And capture is really annoying because that first turning point, you got to stick a guy on it if you want to score the point. So I didn't even bother to go score 3 points in the first turning point. Ended up going 2-3, I believe. And then going into the second turning point, I lost initiative, which really sucked. I mean, he gave initiative to me, so obviously I was probably going to lose it. But I set up the Ventriloquar in the middle with the Skin Thief, and then I had the Screecher and my leader on the far right, just to kind of keep that 3-inch bubble of no rerolls and the Grizzly Trophy online to make those two a little tougher. He put the Commando Knob and a Boy on the right side, so I figured I could fairly easily kind of, to use an orc term, crump them. And that's kind of what happened. So basically, I advanced my leader onto the point. I put the Screecher right up to the door. I had my Heavy Bolter kind of tucked in the back, ready for the going to second turning point. I had the Ventriloquar and the Skin Thief both ready to go, and I kept the Melta off the middle point on the right. And I basically flip flopped them. So I had the Heavy Bolter hold on that left side. I had the Skin Thief come all the way to the right, and then I had the Meltagun actually come all the way through the other door on the right side to set up to deny him the stalk target, I believe it is, for infiltration, the one you have to be within 3 inches of the guy. Um, and so I kind of knew that I was going to be going down on points, turning point 1 and probably turning point 2. So I took Robin Ransack. I took Dreadtail Dark Rumor, the faction tack up, which is, I have mixed opinions on it because I was a little too efficient at killing at the end, and we'll get there. And it led me to make a very awkward play, which I'm not exactly feeling great about. But whatever. I took that, and then I took route. I think the faction tack-ups were good picks. I do think maybe I could have thrown Executioner in there, maybe Headhunter, because I ended up killing the Commando Knob, his second turning point, which there's no way to predict that I could have done that because obviously we hadn't deployed at that point. But basically going turning point 2, I lost. First thing he does on the right side with the Screecher and my leader is he opens the door and fights the Screecher. And I'm like, fantastic. Just feed him into me. And it went about as well for Chris as you would have thought it would have.
Listen,
I believe
I fought a Screecher with a Patriarch, and I did 6 damage and ended that fight with 6 wounds remaining. I know how badly that fight can go.
Yeah, so he basically got 1 hit on me, and then I just killed him. To which I was like, fantastic, awesome. No, sorry, I got him to 1 wounds. So we were locked in combat. I instead of taking that play, and I held Vox Scream until the moment that I needed it, and it's actually probably what won me the game. So I also used Prussian tokens here pretty effectively. I rolled 2 during the first turning point and kind of staggered out to some of those activations. I rolled a decent amount of Prussians. I think I rolled 3 in the second turning point. Those were much more effective, in my opinion, than the first turning point. So he goes, then I take my Ventriloquar, and I immediately charge into, I believe, which operative was this? I forget which operative it was. I believe it might have been another boy. Killed. I got the mortal wounds. Got him on 9 wounds. Got a crit and a normal. That's all I needed. Or no, I might actually gotten 2 crits there because he would have used just a scratch. I believe I got 2 crits there. Killed him, and then I used the ploy to charge into his Rocket Boy and killed him too. So that I got a double play right off the rip, and I'm feeling real good about myself. And that is when he took the Commando Knob, and then he went and killed the Screecher. Because the Screecher
just walk up like, this fight's taking too long, blat.
Yeah, no, because he had gotten him. I'm misremembering. He had gotten him to 7 wounds, and he had the Power Claw, and he just got lucky enough to roll a crit.
Yep.
Which whatever, it happened. I actually
3s, there's pretty high likelihood of a 6 in there.
Well, remember he was hitting on 4s because of with no rerolls because of the Screecher.
He's looking for 6s anyway.
I know, but that could have gone a lot worse for him, so I thought that was a little questionable. I know he technically only needed a crit, but I'm like, that could have gone way worse for you, and that could have been a very bad 2 for 1.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
But I'm like, okay, cool. And I actually think the big chopper might be the call into Nemesis Claw, purely because of that operative, and you really want to hit on 2s, and they don't have any damage reduction. So
yeah, I mean, when I was running Commandos, I took Big Choppa into pretty much every team, except for maybe like Vet Guard.
I would take the Claw into Space Marines because the ability to crit, hit, 2-tap a Space Marine is very valuable, especially with Wah, which I believe gives you a crit, right?
Yeah, I believe he did have it up at that point, and I think that's why.
Yeah, because I think if you get 2 hits, you turn 1 to a crit.
Exactly.
And you just basically don't fight the Screecher with him. That's all you need to do.
But that's the thing. That's the thing too. That's why I was saying I don't know if that was the move for him to go into me, because you're now hitting on 4s, dog. There's a good chance you get 1 hit and that's it, and you can't.
Is the Commando Knob 5 attacks or 4?
He's 4. He's 4.
He is 4?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. That's a bit sus. I'm glad it worked out for him, but I don't know if I would have done that.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, I was on 7 wounds, so all he needed was a crit, but like that could have gone so much worse for him. And that's the other thing. I had my leader right there with my plasma pistol. So literally all I did was I charged the normal guy, or I went and charged the normal guy, killed him, and then just shot with a plasma pistol, killed the knob. That's another. Now, if we're adding up operatives, I have lost 1 operative to his 4. We're on the 3rd activation. So, it just kind of went from there. The sniper, I believe, ended up killing my Ventriloquar, and then, which is fine, whatever. At the end of the day with Marines, if I'm trading 2 orcs for 1 Marine, I don't care. It's fine. I was scoring the points I needed because of Robin Ransack. And that's why I don't like anybody that says take recon for these guys, because it's just not what they're good at. They're good at killing things, and that's I've every time I've had like a 2% inkling to take recon, I've always taken seek and destroy and been completely fine. I actually don't think I've very rarely not gotten 5 or lower on with this team because they're just so good at killing. And so my heavy bolter, I was real afraid of the bomb squig. And I
Rightfully
actually
so.
didn't realize I did the math. You're actually not likely to kill a space marine in one go with the bomb squig. Like, you're actually very likely not going to. So, and I didn't real
Listen, I in the very early stages of this game, when the only two teams that existed was Vetguard and Commandos, played Traitor Marines, and I lost 2 Space Marines to 1 Bomb Squig.
Well, I did the math after the game because I was like, oh, how likely was it? I think it's like a 40% chance or something. It might even be lower than that. So either way, that was a big moment. He opened up the door with the knife guy, threw the bomb squig into my heavy bolter. He survived on 2 wounds. So that scored me 2 more points because he was able to hold on that side more. He made another big mistake in Turning Point 3 because my Space Marine was on 2 wounds. He used the Daka boy instead of just running up and punching me in the face and killing me. So he used the Daka and he ended up whiffing on the Daka. So I shot him, put him on, I want to say, 3 wounds, and then I charged and killed him. So that now had forced him to invest the knife guy into killing him, which he did. But by that point, I had already gotten my skin thief back on the other side of the board. And at this point, I had gotten my. I was already so far on the right side that I knew I was going to get the point I needed for Darktail Dark Rumor. I already scored my first point on route. Going to third turning point, I already knew that I had a real good setup because he took the grot and put him in pretty like close charging range. So I knew that's where my crucial Vox scream came in. I lost initiative into third turning point again, and he had used that activation to kill my bolter. I used the next activation to deal with the. Let's see, what was it? I forget which operative I dealt with, but either way, what ended up happening is he goes to activate the Gretchling or whatever the hell it is. I go Vox Scream no. He does another guy. I take the Melta. The Melta snaps his neck, and then I Melta the sniper. So I ended up getting the point for route. I ended up taking out another threat. He does another model activation after that. I kill a guy in melee with my leader, and then I plasma pistol his comms. That's where I took my point on Robin Ransack. And at that point, he had 2 guys left. And this is where the issue with Dreadtail Dark Ruber came in, because I was like, oh, I need to be within 6 of an enemy operative, and he's on 1 guy. I actually cannot kill this guy. I have to let him stay alive. So going into fourth turning point, I win finally, and I charge him. I actually learned this from you, George. You actually don't have to strike with melee if you don't want to. So I basically got him down to 1 wound, and then I just parried the rest out and didn't do anything other wounds to him. And I'm like, cool, he's on 1 wound. What is he gonna do? He can't if he gets off the point, that's a point for me. He can't get more than 4 inches away from me because he's injured now. So I'm guaranteed to score the point on Dreadtail Dark Rumor. And he doesn't have enough to get on the other point. So I ended up going on primary 2, 3, 4, 4. And then I maxed out, so that got me 19. And Chris went 3, 2, 2, 1, I believe. And it got, I want to say 3 on primary. And it ended up being 13, 19. So kind of like big takeaways. The mistake I made, I want to say I moved too far up, but like I wouldn't have scored the points if I hadn't moved up. So it's like, how do you? It's also part of the design for the map. There literally, I don't think is a way to dodge that bomb squig without losing. So I really think you just gotta like just take the roll and just hope it works out. Even if that's the case, it would have been a 2-point swing his direction with me minus 1 point. So I still would have won by about 3 or 4. So I don't necessarily think it would have mattered. But man, it's just on that map, it's so hard to dodge the bomb squig because you just keep him just enough distance out and you keep another orc between you and the bomb squig. You're not going to be able to get to the bomb squig because you're going to be in engagement range to fight the other guy at the door. So you have to just kind of just hope it works out. And that's what I kind of figured out mid game. I'm like, well, let's see what happens. And I ended up surviving. MVP of the game was my leader. He killed 1, 2, 3, 4 guys by himself. Plasma pistol on 2s is good. Is what
It's excellent, in fact.
so yeah, and will reliably kill orcs, especially since if you got 3 hits, and they save 1, theoretically just a scratch can come up, but when you're hitting on 2s, you're very reliably hitting all 4 of them, and therefore just a scratch doesn't matter for any of the models, including the knob.
Did Chris bring any dynamite to the party?
He did. He put it on the knob, and I had already dealt with that before it became a
When
threat.
I was playing a lot of Commandos last year, my play style was not so much focused towards like the big, forward deploy alpha strike. I ended up playing a lot of games where I was really trying to stage a lot of threats up and take Daka on turning point 2. So that way my dynamite, all of my dynamite, my bomb squig, anything else, like Rocket Boy, especially on Into the Dark, just much more reliable shooting at that point. And that sort of thing can really like help, especially if you like need the bomb squig to make a critical play.
Yeah, the problem was with the dynamite in that game is I was always within 2 inches of another one of his guys. So, and I was pretty much on conceal too. So he never really would have gotten a chance to throw the dynamite. He also just needed that APL to open the door too and deal with stuff.
Yeah, dynamite's surprisingly difficult to use on Into the Dark unless you are, face pressed up against the door already.
Yeah. So I mean literally I did the whole elite rundown nonsense. And I mean bear in mind that game, had I rolled poorly in that game, I would have lost that game. The ploy with the mortal wounds on the first charge is really good. That's the thing too. Make sure when you do that ploy that you're charging the melee guys first, so that way you get the most out of it and you could potentially not have to worry about rolling crits. So like against orcs, if you roll 2 mortals, you could 2-tap them with the entire team's melee. It could also force out just a scratch, and that's kind of what you want to do, is force out like a just a scratch where they really don't want to use it.
Yeah, that's how I beat Chris last league with Felgor, is I committed nothing to fight him until I got the flux spray up, and I hit like 4 dudes with the running past mortals. I hit like 2 or 3 dudes with the vandal twice. I got the flux spray off twice. So like nobody was on full wounds on the team when I charged into them. And so like once the just a scratch was popped, I charged in and just fought. And so like if you can force just a scratch on a commandos team, and you have the ability to then get very aggressive on your opponent, that is the time you get very aggressive on your opponent.
Yeah. Like I said, it's I don't think this is an easy matchup for Nemesis Claw by any stretch. Or commandos are still commandos. I still think they're one of the best teams in the game. If not in that top echelon, by a good player. And Chris certainly proved that. I was sweating the whole time, even though he thought I had it pretty handily the whole time. I knew deep in my heart that one bad dice roll probably would have swung it the other direction, as is with most things with elite teams that don't necessarily have reliable access to rerolls. Also, I really need to get better at like using the leader to get that command point reliably. I haven't been doing that with his portent thing, and it's really fucked me when I really want that extra CP.
I think that's just a really hard thing to do,
It
though.
is,
Because
though.
he's a Space Marine leader on a Space Marine team, and you need those guys to get stuff done because they hit on 2s. They have a plasma pistol, 3 APL of your 8. They have literally a 6 of your APL. So like the only time I find that to be incredibly useful is if I'm keeping him in my back line, and he is effectively doing nothing at all with it. So like turn 1, I'll use it. Or if I have literally nothing better to do with him because like I broke that flank and he just can't get anywhere. But at that point, I also don't need it. But thank you, both of you, for joining me this Friday Eve and talking about the league and stuff. I know in the couple coming weeks, we're going to talk about the league as a whole, because we do keep, we have the league organizer is kind of an amazing person, and he keeps a bunch of stats on the league, like what teams are doing well, what archetypes are doing well, even stuff like who is winning games based on what their initiative roles are, stuff like that. He's keeping amazing statistics, and we're going to try and get him on and just talk about the stats.
And
so,
not to brag, at the top of that EOL that we track.
Oh, yeah, we also have a local ELO tracker.
Feels good to be the king.
Well, yeah, you got a ways to go if you want to beat out Warp Coven for the top faction ELO, though.
Is it? Yeah. Isn't that funny? Isn't that really, really funny? That literally Scott's pure dedication to that team is what got him there. You got to respect that.
Look, belligerence pays off.
Scott is nothing but belligerent.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
in the most endearing way possible.
Agreed.
No, we love you, Scott. But anyways, yeah, great talking with y'all. Can't wait to talk about next week. And gentlemen, we are almost less than a month from Nova.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Hell
awesome.
Yes.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Yeah.
Till next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Vox Screen. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Please follow, subscribe, and leave us a review. Any of those things are going to help us grow. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode.